We used to think New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was a micromanaging bully. So, why do we suddenly love him? Could it be that effective leadership means leadership that's uniquely suited to its circumstances? And Cuomo's leadership style is uniquely suited to our public health crisis? You are opening the Infinite Lunchbox for a fresh take on what's going on. I'm Stephanie Lepp, and today we're going to get a fresh take on leadership in times of crisis, and more broadly, strategy in times of change, or what we can call integral strategy. And we're going to start with a little story. Once upon a time, we came up with a way of doing things, and we were like, okay, this is the right way of doing things. Every other way is wrong. This is the right way. And then circumstances changed and we came up with a different way of doing things. And we were like, no, this is the right way of doing things. Every other way is wrong and this way is the right way. And then circumstances changed again and we came up with a new way and again and another new way. And then we were like, wait, we're noticing a pattern here. Maybe this way of doing things is not the right and only right way, and all the other ways are wrong. Maybe we are in the process of giving birth to many ways of doing things. And thank God, because as circumstances continue to change, we'll have a diverse portfolio of ways of doing things to draw from. Sure, some ways may be more fun and humane than others, but all have perhaps some partial utility or truth to them. Whoa. You know how every couple months the Harvard Business Review comes out with the definition of an effective leader? Because there is, of course, one way to be an effective leader. Well, a few years ago, emotional intelligence expert Daniel Goleman interviewed hundreds of leaders and identified not one, but 6 distinct leadership styles: commanding, visionary, affiliative, democratic, pace-setting, and coaching. And surprise, surprise, different leadership styles work better in different circumstances. So for example, commanding, which demands immediate compliance, is really helpful in a crisis, to kickstart a turnaround or with problem employees. Hence our love for Governor Cuomo in the time of coronavirus. Visionary, which mobilizes people towards a vision, is really helpful when changes require a new vision or when clear direction is needed. Affiliative, which creates harmony and builds emotional bonds, is really helpful to heal rifts in a team or to motivate people during stressful circumstances. But it's not just that different leadership styles work better in different circumstances. Different leadership styles also have a unique impact on the overall organizational climate. Commanding has an overall negative impact because it's not fun to be commanded, hence our lack of love for Cuomo pre-pandemic. Visionary has the most strongly positive impact because it is really fun to mobilize around a shared vision. Affiliative has a positive impact because it does feel good to make up with people and build solidarity in stressful circumstances. So yes, different circumstances call for different leadership styles, but some styles are more enjoyable for everyone than others. So if we are in a crisis, I can tell my team, yo, I'm going to shift into hard-ass mode for a sec to get us out of this crisis and to get us into a new circumstance where hard-ass mode is not the leadership style that's most effective, so that I can shift into a different leadership style that's more effective and more fun for all of us. In this context, what makes someone an amazing leader isn't necessarily being visionary, because that's the leadership style that's most fun for everyone, but being able to adapt between different leadership styles depending on the circumstances, and or knowing when the leadership style I'm best at doesn't fit the current circumstance, and being able to hand the baton to someone else whose leadership style does. It's not that commanding is always bad and visionary is always good. Each style is helpful in some circumstance, but we like some styles better than others, and so we use the not fun ones only in the circumstances in which we really need them in order to get us into a different circumstance where we don't need to use them anymore. Posed as a question, Under what circumstances is which way of doing or understanding something helpful for achieving our goal? This way of thinking is essentially what philosopher Ken Wilber calls integral thinking, because it integrates the different ways of doing or understanding something into one framework. Although here I'm referring to it more in a little I integral capacity. Now, I don't think Daniel Goleman necessarily thought that what he was doing with his leadership matrix was operationalizing and even templatizing integral theory. But that is precisely what I would say he did. He developed a template for what we can call integral strategy. He developed a template for integrating the different ways of achieving the same goal. And once you see the matrix in this way, haha, you can't help but see it all over the place. Types of higher education. Under which circumstances should someone consider going to college versus a trade school versus doing an internship versus, if they can afford it, taking a year off for soul searching or healing or more spaciously exploring their next step? Types of yoga. For what kinds of wellness needs does it make sense to do Iyengar versus Bikram versus Kundalini versus other kinds of yoga? Types of energy sources. Under what circumstances does it make sense to use solar and or wind and or, under very minimal circumstances, if any, nuclear and or other energy sources in order to achieve our energy goals? Types of currency. Under what economic circumstances might it be strategic to use traditional money and or a local currency and or time banking and or bartering and or Bitcoin and or other mechanisms of exchange? Even economic systems. Under what circumstances does it make sense to engage capitalism versus socialism versus iterations thereof versus systems I don't even know about in order to achieve our goals as a society? Which, of course, begs the question, what are our goals as a society? But that is the evolution on capitalism. I believe that beyond capitalism is the capacity to shift between different economic systems depending on the circumstances. Capitalism is amazing at growth, yay, not so amazing at distribution, and so how might we develop an integral economic system? You could even fill out the matrix with different ways of thinking, including integral thinking, but I won't get that meta on us. You could fill it out with different ways of thinking, like modern versus postmodern ways of thinking about gender. Under what circumstances is it helpful to lean into the differences between the genders, like for purposes of gender equality, versus think that there's no such thing as gender, like for purposes of expanding our understanding of gender? Or different ways of thinking about time, from linear to cyclical, or different ways of knowing, a la John Vervaeke, from propositional to participatory. We don't actually have to choose one and only one way of thinking or knowing. We can hold all of the above and mix and match and, of course, integrate depending on what we're trying to achieve. And in that way, use our consciousness in our service. Because this isn't just about seeing the nature of reality clearly, it's also about seeing reality skillfully. Anyway, whatever it is that you do or are involved in, I invite you to imagine an integral matrix for it, which can help with intersubjective sense making because it gets all of the ways of doing whatever it is we're trying to do onto the same table. So instead of having a debate about which energy source is best, we can invite proponents of different sources to fill out a matrix together. And the matrix would include a host of criteria like carbon footprint and efficiency and national security implications and cost, etc., etc., etc. And if there is no circumstance under which your energy source is not the best, i.e., if your source is the best under every single circumstance and according to every single criteria, then you are probably a fundamentalist and not quite ready to get integral. To be clear, integral theory does not say that all ways are created equal. That's actually green meme, which we'll get into in the next episode. Integral says that all ways evolved for some purpose, and therefore, in a prescriptive sense, have at least some, even if super minor, utility. But some ways are, in a normative sense, better for everyone. which makes Integral a really resilient and adaptive cognitive operating system because you can run multiple programs on it at the same time and learn to run new ones. Or, as I like to say, I am so open minded, I'm even open to being mindfully close minded sometimes. All right, y'all, that was Integral Theory and Strategy as presented by the Infinite Lunchbox. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe on YouTube, give 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, share on social media, and be in touch in the YouTube comments or on Twitter at StephLep. Thank you.